Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Hemmings Outright Barbecue Podcast. I am your host, Mike Musto, together with Phil Painter from Muscle Cars at the Strip and Dusty McPherson of Relentless Muscle. Now, we are here today to talk about the show, Muscle Cars at the Strip, that is happening. Well, hell, it's happening next weekend, isn't it, Phil?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
March 17th through the 19th.
17th through the 19th, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Las Vegas, Nevada. Basically right outside of Las Vegas. So if you can't have fun at a show, a car show with drag racing and everything else in Las Vegas, and then go out to Las Vegas, you're dead inside. But I wanted to have these guys on because I wanted to talk about the show. I wanted to talk about how it's been curated over the last 20 years. And then I wanted to talk about an activation that Dodge is doing at the show too. So let's start with Phil. Give us the rundown on the show. Give us the genesis of the show, how it started, and where it has come over the last, this is 21 years now, 22 years?
Correct. So if you've not been to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it's one of the premier facilities in the whole world. And when Bruton Smith and his team set out to build a show place in the desert, it really is. So you owe it to yourself to come out and see the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's absolutely spectacular. So living here as a resident, when they started to build the NASCAR track, everybody wondered, could they ever build another drag strip here? And lo and behold, when Speedway Incorporated bought the track and broke ground at SEMA saying that they were going to build a drag strip, a bunch of my friends in the Midwest says, this is too good of an opportunity for you not to take advantage of. And so I met with the track, and through some meetings and some understandings, we were given the green light to put on the first event in 2003, and then we are the longest outside promoter to have a contract with the Las Vegas Motor Speedway that has lasted over 21 years. And over the 21 years, everything has evolved and changed, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get on here today and kind of explain where it's headed and what's going on. And then I brought in a couple of my friends that are really sharp with what's going on. But where the changes really come, Mike, is over the years, everybody wanted to bring their show cars in on a trailer. And we went through the 100-point show car, number matching, all of that process. And after 20 years, I think people just want to enjoy their cars. They want to come to an event with like-minded people, let their hair down, get away from the stresses of life, and enjoy their hobby with the people that they enjoy. So it's kind of a nirvana for car guys. One of the things that we're doing different was brought to me by Chris Albright of the Talking Mopars podcast. Is he says, why don't you do a project car? He lives in Washington State. He says it's cold up there in the winter. Why don't we invite everybody that's got a project car to come to the event and look for the camaraderie, do the networking, and maybe get the inspiration that they need to put a car together. And as you know, putting a 70s muscle car back together, if you tear it apart, I mean, you could build a house in the time it takes to do that. And if you don't have the skill set and a bunch of good friends, you just bit off more than you can chew.
Yeah, it can get a little crazy. And I think one of the, I've been at the show the last 3 years. The show is really unreal. And I think what most people need to understand is it's not just a car show, right? It's a show where you have autocross, drag racing, awards, show cars, a swap meet. I mean, it's literally like a jack of all trades car show with every genre of performance idea that you can have. So Dusty, let me ask you. So what do you guys do? Talk about Relentless Muscle for a little bit and let us know how you got started in that and what your role is going to be at the car show this year and what we can expect to see.
Yeah. So a little bit about me and where I'm coming from. I had Relentless Muscle here in Las Vegas. We are a muscle-focused car club, nonprofit organization. So we do a lot of charity work within our community. We also host local events, car shows, cruises, meets, poker runs, different stuff like that. So we're out and super active. We're active through Southern California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, kind of hitting all the bases. And we've got everything from, Hellcats and Vipers to we even have a Miata and everything in between. So, we strive on cars are cool, but people are better. So if you're good people and good fun, we bring you in. With that, we've networked out quite a bit. I'm pretty active in the both the business side of the car world and the recreational side. I have my own business doing ceramic coating, stuff like that. So
All
that's how I
right.
was able
Okay.
to check out your ride at SEMA.
Okay.
With that, I was referred to Phil through one of our local businesses we work with, Gateway Classic Cars.
Mhm.
And we've been bringing in some fresh ideas, a different perspective on stuff, kind of appealing to that street level, drive my car every day, but pull it up to the show kind of enthusiast. And,
Right.
that's where we really have a lot of fun with all this.
That's cool. And I think, it's interesting as somebody who's wanted to attend the event for years. I mean, the first time that I attended it, and Phil, this was coming right off the heels of COVID, right? And it was, I didn't expect a lot of people, but when we got there, it was the opposite. It was so many people wanted to get out of the house. They wanted to show up to a show, get a little bit of normalcy back in their lives. And it was amazing because not only were people the drag strip was packed. Phil, it was the first year. The drag strip ran till 1:30 in the morning or something like that. Is that right?
Well, actually, during COVID, when we did the event in September, I left there at 4 a.m. on going into Sunday morning, and then Sunday morning or Saturday morning
Mm-hmm.
going in, it was 4 o'clock. Sunday morning we left there as the sun was coming up.
Yeah. But
6:30.
what was crazy though, is how many people stayed and literally raced all night. And that's something that I haven't seen. And nobody bitched, nobody moaned, nobody complained. I was kind of taken aback by the amount of camaraderie that was there between all the racers and between all the people that were just watching. Everybody was there to help everybody out. And that's not something you always see when you go to an event, right? I think sometimes you have a lot of egos. And I think the beauty of muscle cars is that those seem to go away, right? And I think you saw people walking around with their entire families, kids of all ages. And the nice part was everybody, whether you were a racer or whether you were in the show field, all the doors were open to all the kids to let these kids experience what these vehicles were and to kind of get them involved. And so from a family perspective, I thought that was one of the coolest parts about the show, aside from everything else that was going on. So, what can we expect what can we expect to see car wise?
Oh, we've got some great cars coming. We've got Paul Rossi's original Super Stalker. We also have one of the Motown missiles is coming to the event. Chris Birdsong, if you haven't followed him on Instagram, you need to look him up. He's put out a challenge to everybody in the project car. And Mike, Chris, he's an animated personality and just a great guy.
He's a lunatic.
He's he's a great, whatever.
And I say lunatic in the greatest possible way. Chris, if you're hearing this, I mean it with love, and so it's fine.
So the great part about this is you mentioned the word people 3 or 4 times, and that's exactly where our focus of the event is on the people. The cars are a byproduct, but I noticed today it's probably 7 below zero in Casper, Wyoming, and there's a crew of guys up there building what they're calling the Roach 71 CUDA to put in the autocross. And they've literally put a floor pan in it. They're going to put a big motor in it. They're going to have the suspension, but it's going to look like a Roach. And its whole mission in life is to come down here and put the smack down on Chris Birdsong.
So
for
everybody,
it doesn't get any better than that.
No, and when we talk about Chris, amongst others who are going to be there, the autocross is something that if you've never experienced autocross, it's a riot, and it doesn't matter what you have. Now, I'm assuming Rob Bird's still going to be doing it. He's going to be running the event.
Absolutely.
On the autocross side. Yep. Mm-hmm. So it's great because last year we had such an awesome group. Everything from Fox Body Mustangs, 69 Chargers, Fairmonts. Just about everything was out there running, and it was great because the guys that are and the men and women that are running this thing, they are not easy on these cars. So when you see a 50-year-old car go out on the autocross circuit and driven in anger, especially Birdsong, right? Sliding sideways, tire smoke coming off. It is such a riot to watch. It's literally its own little carnival ride, right? So you take that, then you start walking around the pits. And all of a sudden, you're seeing 1,000+ horsepower, pro mod cars and garage built dragsters. So then you walk over to the drag strip, and these people are just going balls out down to 1320. And this is not, it's friendly racing, but make no mistake, it is full on competition racing. These people don't screw around at this event, and then, like Dusty, to your point, the car show, like how many people do you think are going to be coming, and what kind of vehicles do you think will be showing up from your end?
Oh man. I mean, personally, people that I know coming out, got the pleasure of seeing the Sin City Muscle Cars car that they're going to bring out with their Mustang. That thing's going to be some stiff competition. They won World's Mustang last year, and I think they're coming for it again this year. And everything from that up to, the new Hellcats with air ride suspension and vertical doors and every crazy spaceship contraption you can find on it and everything in between. I'm excited, man. It's going to be a good time.
I think so. And I mean, the cool part is the event starts on Friday, right? That's when everybody starts to get in. Saturday, it's full bore. Sunday, it's full bore. But then the cool part is on Monday, it's kind of still going because Dodge is having their last call event. And they're doing an activation at the show. So they're going to be doing thrill rides. And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to be doing thrill rides all weekend. They're going to be having the Demon Simulator set up there. They are going to, if you are a Mopar or a Dodge individual who loves these cars, regardless if you like everything else, there's so much more. And then I know on the Monday event, they're also having like Chris Jacobs is going to be there. Alex Taylor, Jay Leno is going to be there. They're going to be releasing, a brand new car, which I know what it is, but I'm not telling anybody. And you're going to have Mike Finnegan and Freiberger and a whole bunch of other people, but it's a huge event. It's really kind of a 3 and 4 day event that you could go to the shows every single day. You could race every day. You can, look at the cars and talk to all the contestants and talk to everybody on the show field and walk through the swap meet, and then go to Vegas, go out, have a great dinner, see a show. That's the beauty of Muscle Cars at the Strip, is it's this all-encompassing program that kind of has something for everybody. And it's one of the first shows that I've ever seen that really caters to that. It's really cool. Really, really cool. So Phil, how many people do you have that you think are going to be in the drag races this year? How many you got signed up?
Last year we set a record with 515 tech cards, and we think we're going to eclipse that this year.
Oh my God. Okay. So you've got all those drag races. Now, do you guys have do you have a favorite car that you're looking forward to seeing? Like, do you have, and I don't know how diplomatic you have to be, if you could actually say if you have a favorite or not, since you're the organizer, but do you have cars that you look forward to seeing every year?
Yeah, there's some cars that are going to be at the event that I don't think anybody has seen. And when you look at these cars, they're just mind-blowing how much passion has gone into building them. For instance, there's going to be a black 55 Chevrolet with a chop top and a channeled car, and it's got a pro stock suspension under it, but it is so tastefully done, and it's got all the modern touches that as a car guy, you either walk up and you get it or you don't, and you're not a car guy. It was just kind of a moment when I saw it at first.
Right. Well, and I think that's the thing. I feel like this event brings a lot of cars out of the woodwork, cars that you normally wouldn't see. And I think one of the coolest parts also is the accessibility that you have to the owners and to the racers, right? Nothing is cordoned off. So you can essentially walk up to anybody and start a conversation about their rides. And, in my past experience, everybody is more than willing to talk to you about their modifications, talk to you about the style that they put into the car. I know Hemmings is, obviously Hemmings is going to be there. We're going to be handing out awards. And it's something that we really kind of do look forward to every single year. Now, Dusty, what are you bringing personally? What are you driving in this thing?
So I'm bringing 2 cars, bringing my car and my wife's car. I've got a 2019 Charger, lightly modified. I joke about. I'm going more race car build, but I'm not actually racing this year. I'm, boots on the ground helping out. My wife's Durango is pretty heavily modified. Lots of surprises. I keep joking that right now we're in SEMA crunch time.
Okay.
Because we're doing everything last minute before Max.
Yeah.
You know, getting all the finishing touches on it. So we'll be out there with two. So look for a bright orange Charger, can't miss it, and then a black bag Durango on some big fancy wheels and some purple pinstriping. So
All right. So, well, let me ask you this. I mean, you know, over the years, kind of the muscle car scene, as we all know, has kind of changed a little bit, right? You know, 15 years ago, there wasn't that much late model stuff in the field. It was still very much classic stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even, you know, kind of the early 80s. But now we're seeing so many late model cars. We're seeing Chargers, Challengers, Camaros, Mustangs, you know, Miatas swapped with V8s. I mean, everything is really changing. As enthusiasts, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Give me some opinions on that, especially you, Phil. I mean, you've seen this, you've been in this hobby for a long time, and you've seen the muscle car come from the genesis of the muscle car to where we are now with 1,000 horsepower cars being for sale to all encounter. What do you think about how it changes?
Well, I think when the three manufacturers all decided to build a modern muscle car, it was one of those moments when everybody thought, you know, will they really do it? But I think it actually saved the hobby, because every generation is attracted to what they grew up and wanted as a kid. And my hat's off to all three manufacturers to revitalizing this for this everybody to enjoy again. And you know, whether it's a new Mustang or a new Camaro or even a Challenger, if you drive a 1970 model, there's a deep appreciation for what that is. But that same appreciation comes over with the technology in the new car. And I think that the hobby is embracing it all because, you know, it's absolutely cool. And why would you not want a car that you go out and hit the button in your garage and it snarls at you?
Right.
So I think it's a good thing. I think all three manufacturers, we all should tip our hats to them and come out and enjoy the event, because it may not be there, you know, 3 or 4 years down the road. And so enthusiasts need to kind of have a little bit of give and take and an open mind. And I think when you look at those cars, you have an opinion what they are, but you can't deny the passion when you talk to the owner.
Right. Right. And Dusty, let me ask you, you know, as somebody who's kind of formed a car club and has been doing this for a long time, have you seen a shift in members? Like, you know, when you first started, were there a lot of hot rods in there and then they slowly morphed into kind of late model stuff? Or has it always been kind of a nice melding of old and new?
it's usually, to be honest, it's usually pretty well balanced. Our membership is heavy right now on late model stuff.
Okay.
But I think a lot of that reason too is a lot of them are daily drivers.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of my guys have full blown show cars that they daily drive, and you know they need that reliability of a modern car and some of those nice features, like you know it's 110, 115 degrees here in the summer, not exactly classic friendly. So
Right.
you know stuff like that, you know, kind of shapes where we're at as well. But then again, I've got guys with 65 Mustangs and stuff like that. So
Right.
it all just kind of depends on what you're doing and how you're looking at it. But I think it's definitely a good blend and a fun mix too, to see that different stuff coming out.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, and this is for both of you guys. So obviously the muscle car scene is changing, right? I mean, Dodge is doing last call. It's called last call for a reason, right? It's the last of the big horsepower, you know, 800 horsepower production cars, so to speak, meaning all petrol driven, right? Sure, we might see some hybrid versions in the future or some different engine configurations, but the big V8s are going away as we know them. How do you think that's going to affect the hobby? Do you think that muscle cars will always be muscle cars, even if they have, you know, a twin turbo, whatever it is under the hood, or a hybrid under the hood, or an all EV car, right? Like, what do you guys think about that? You think it'll stimulate the hobby? Do you think it takes it back a little bit? What are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Dusty. I'm going to need to be censored.
Dusty's like, I don't know about this.
I kind
He's
of
like,
have mixed feelings
hmm.
on it, right? So I grew up as a
Okay.
Fast and Furious kid. Everything was, you know, coming into fruition when I was starting to drive with the Fast and Furious franchise. So I've been
Sure.
involved in all types of cars and all types of things. So I appreciate
Okay.
everything, right?
Okay.
Those movies encompass everything, kind of like our
Right.
culture does now. I think that the EV stuff is, you know, gonna have its place and its people, just like the tuners do, just like the Euros do, just like the
Yep.
muscle does. I don't think there's going to be a lot of cross, but maybe a little bit of cross as far as, EV to muscle and stuff like that. But I definitely think they're going to have their own individual crowds. And as we, get a little deeper into it, people are going to have to accept it. I mean, we just held a car
Right.
show back in October and I had to add an EV class. And some of the nicest cars out there were some of the EVs and they took some trophies.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
got to adapt and change and just keep going with it. And I'm going to drive my V8. You drive your batteries if you want, but I appreciate the hard work and the blood and sweat that goes into it.
Right. I think, yeah, I agree with that. And I keep looking at it. And I was a little put off, in the beginning as well, right? As a V8 guy, somebody that's got, a couple of 50-year-old cars, it's an interesting shift, right? Because when we think of, at least when I think of hot rod, I think of something that's tangible, that I can reach under the hood, that I know every component, right? It's my power steering box, is brake master, whatever the case is. I know what it does. With an EV, I got nothing, right? They were designed by people much, much smarter than I am, and they can be tuned by people much, much smarter than I am. But I think it's just a different genre. But when you see what people are starting to do with them and how they're tuning them and how they're making them perform, I got to take my hat off to it a little bit, because it's just like, I know I can't do it. And then you see the speed of them. That's another thing that's a bit crazy is, yes, they have the speed, but my biggest pet peeve is they lack the theater. I don't think anything's going to match the theater of, a 700 horsepower Charger ripping down the street with the exhaust on fire. I mean, that's something that's going to be hard to simulate in any type of muscle car,
I agree. I have a friend that kind of goes through cars pretty quickly. He's gone from red eye to Tesla to everything else you can imagine, Corvettes, pro street cars, you name it.
Yeah.
And, he prefers to daily drive an EV, obviously for financial
Sure.
reasons. It makes
sense.
sense. And he tells me all the time, he goes, the Plaid is fast and it's, all of these things. He goes, but it just doesn't feel like it has a soul, because there's nothing. You step on the gas, there's no sound, there's no nothing. It just goes.
Right.
Versus you turn your key, you feel a rumble, you feel it in your chest, you feel it in your heart. It's got a soul.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting perspective on it. And I agree with it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I know, over the weekend, Dodge is going to have their new Charger there, right? That they're going to have the new Daytona there, the EV car. What do you think about that? And I want to ask you guys this, because this is a muscle car event, right? And they're touting it as the new muscle car, as EV muscle. Do you think that those of us with old big blocks and Hemi cars, and I've got them both, right, are going to embrace this? Do you think they're going to shy away from it? Do you think they should have an open mind? And Phil, this goes for you too, man. So I am genuinely curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, do you want to go with Dusty first, or do you want me?
Oh no,
I'm gonna go with you first. Yeah.
So growing up in the car business, as I've always been into cars. And one of the things I've always been is an early adopter of technology. I don't like being in a box. I like to look at the world from the perspective does this make things better? So I think the lines on that Charger are absolutely gorgeous. I think back to the old adage, it's like going down the freeway. Everybody's going to find their lane and everybody's going to find their passion. And the biggest mistake we can make as a promoting body is to try to define what that looks like. And like I mentioned to you before, when you see the look in their eyes, meaning the customer, the participant, and you see that passion, I think that people are going to gravitate towards this Charger. I think if anybody can unsterilize an EV like Tesla has, it would be Dodge. Right. And they're going to make it fun, and they're going to make it an adventure to own. And again, just looking at their commercials, they get the customer probably better than anybody, because they're building what the customer wants. And Mike, you and I had this conversation a couple of days ago. A lot of times the consumer thinks they know what they want, but they don't know what they want till they drive and experience it. And then their whole being starts to change and their opinions change. So I think that the EV thing is a very interesting technology. I think that people will gravitate towards it. And I think everybody needs to have an open mind, because why would you not want to look at this and give it some thought and then decide for yourself? But to the same point, when we were talking about this whole EV thing, I've got a 7-second red eye coming to the event. And Kevin Helmick, that won the world's fastest Hellcat last year, just put a new 3,000 horsepower billet Hemi in his car. And I think that competitive nature that we have as humans and Americans, I shouldn't say Americans, we have it from our Canadian friends, and we have it from our friends in Mexico, everywhere. I think that competitive nature is going to continue to push the envelope. And what people need to understand is a lot of the technology that they're going to adapt to in this Dodge EV, a lot of that was thought up, tested on the drag strip already, and they don't know that they need it, but when they see it, they're going to go,
Right.
I like this. And that's the one thing about drag racing, is we continue to push the envelope of technology. A lot of these guys racing are very smart engineers, and that all ends up in your next car. And not only are the cars better in a lot of ways that you never even knew were possible, but they're safer.
Right.
So if you and your family have the unfortunate situation where you're in an accident, you're going to have the safest capsule that you could ever have around you with any of these new cars.
Right.
So there's a little give and take. And I think the understanding of people, if they'll just have an open mind, be early adopters to the technology, then decide for themselves. But I think there's a lot of features and benefits that everybody should look at this and go, you know, this could be really cool.
Gotcha. Dusty, same thing or skewed a little differently?
I'm pretty similar on my thought process on it. You know, looking at the new AV at the Dodge booth at SEMA this last year, it had me super curious. Like, first thing that drew my eye was it had slicks on all four corners.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's something cool. Like, you need slicks on all four? Let's go. Like, you know, the body lines are gorgeous on it. And like I said, I'm open and I like cars. So, it, you know, may not be for me, you know, but maybe it is. Who knows? They could come out and just blow me away. And, you know, I park it right next to my V8 because I'm going to keep the V8 too. Don't get me wrong there.
Yeah. No, I get it.
The Hurricane's got me curious too. The twin turbo V6.
That's right.
I mean, horsepower guy in me is going,
well, it's an inline, isn't it? It's an inline.
Oh, yes. Inline 6. My bad. Yeah. So that by itself, I'm like, oh, all right, we could crank some horsepower real simple out of that. Like, so I'm curious. I'm curious to see where it goes. And, you know, I'm going to keep my V8 car, but you never know what's going to be sitting next to it in, you know, 3 or 5 years.
Right. So, Phil, let me ask you this about, you know, circling back to the event itself. When, like you said, the event starts Friday. When people show up to the event, there are different fields. There are different access points. So if somebody comes in when they go to register for the event, and first of all, where can they go to register for the event?
So we're doing pre-entry right now at www.matslv.com, and we suggest people go on and pre-register, and that will reserve their spot. We're probably going to announce in the next 24 hours that the autocross is completely sold out.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
If you want to be in, that's going to save your spot. And then you can register when you come to the gate. But on Thursday, we're going to be moving in between 300 and 500 rigs that all have to be parked correctly.
Okay.
So if you're pre-registered, we know who you are and where you should be, and that helps us to organize it better. So yes, you can walk up to the gate. You can buy a spectator gate you can buy a spectator ticket. You can, if the event is not sold out, you can still get in, but why would you risk that? I mean, the beautiful thing about the event is if we get blessed with a good weather weekend, Las Vegas in March is absolutely the prime time. And if you've been shoveling snow all winter, like a lot of people have, and dealt with a lot of rain and cold, why would you not want to come down and enjoy some palm trees, sit in the stands and hear your favorite car go down the track, hang out with your friends, and like you said, go to dinner and make it a family vacation? I can't think of a better place to go than the entertainment capital of the world.
No, I totally agree. And Phil, let me ask you, when people do register the event, do they register, or when you go to the website, when you check it out, do you register separately for the event as a whole, or do you register as a racer, as an autocrosser, for the show field, for the swap meet? Like, are there different segments you register for, or could you do one big registration?
Yeah, you can do one big registration. The beautiful thing about the technology, when we're talking about technologies in these new cars, the same thing has happened with ticketing and events. You get an email back with a QR code for everything that you're doing. And when you walk up to the registration window, we scan your codes and hand you
Mhm.
what you have, and you're in and done. And
Okay.
there's no fumbling trying to find your paperwork when you leave home. If you left at home, you can still walk up to the counter because we have record of everything. It's just a simplified, uh, customer friendly option for everybody.
Okay, perfect. Dusty, when are you guys rolling in with Relentless?
So I mean, I'll be there all week with Phil setting up early, but the club itself, I will be rolling in a blend of Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
And we'll be there throughout the weekend, showing up and having fun and enjoying car guy heaven, really.
Good. Well, that's awesome. I know we're gonna get there. I think Thursday night. We'll be there all day. Well, we will be there all weekend. Obviously, we're driving our Durango, our Hellcat Durango that we built for SEMA. We'll be driving that out from the Bay Area. So it's a nice leisurely 600-mile run, which will be great. Looking forward to that. Who knows? You might even see it on the autocross or the drag strip. And then the cool part is also, again, like we mentioned, this is not a one-day event. This is 3 days plus. On the Monday, on the 20th, you've got the Dodge Last Call event. They've got Diplo coming out, the DJ, to do some fun stuff. Hemi Under Glass is going to be there. Little Red Wagon, the new Hornet, all this other stuff. It should be. I think this is going to be a banner year. I'm thinking that this is probably going to be one of the best muscle cars at the strip to date, and I know that I'm looking forward to it. Guys, any closing thoughts? Like, so Dusty, where can everybody find you if they want to find out more information on Relentless and what you guys do and how you guys organize the club? Where can they go?
Instagram is one of our big outlets right now. So just at Relentless Muscle, you can find us there. I run all the social media, so you reach out, you're going to get me direct. Other than that, just like I said, look for the bright orange Charger out at Matt's, and you'll find me.
Okay,
So
very
can't miss
good.
it. Satin metallic. It's the one of one.
Okay, awesome.
So
And Phil, for you, for where can everybody go? Again, to obviously, like, we're going to be posting stuff. I'm going to be on the ground doing live video for Hemmings. We're going to be posting that up on our social media pages at the event. But pre-event, where can everybody go? Where can they buy tickets right now and get information?
So the website is www.matslv, and when you go there, there's going to be options for rooms, rental cars, tickets for the event, et cetera, et cetera. Everything you need to know is right there with links. You just hit the link that you want, and the information that you want is right there. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Matt'sLV. One of the things that I also wanted to mention to you is we've got a stage that's being sponsored by ARP,
Nice.
and
That's the stage that we
on
had last year, right? That was
yes,
great.
and none other than Danny Coker from Counting Cars and his band will be on stage on Saturday to entertain everybody in the car show area. So not only do you get to come and relax at a cool car show, but it doesn't get much better than Danny Coker, because everybody that works in his shop is going to be there activated on the property, and Danny's band itself will be playing. And you got a car guy playing at a car event for car people.
Right.
Who would have thought about that, right?
Right. Exactly.
And
No, we
go ahead.
no, go ahead. Keep
Well, I
going,
was just
man.
say
Tell people.
everything about the event is catered for the muscle car person's an experience. We want you to come here and just enjoy everything. And like you said, and then with Dodge on Monday, I don't care where you live. I mean, we've got a race car coming from Wasilla, Alaska. We've got race cars coming from Hermosillo, Mexico. We've got a bunch of stuff coming out of Alberta and the northern parts of Canada. So why wouldn't you be here? And if you're sitting at home and you're listening to this podcast and you say to yourself, well, one of these days I should do this. Well, one of these days is right now.
Right.
Even if
Right.
you can only come for one day, we guarantee that when you leave, you'll have a smile plastered on your face for the next 6 months. And that's how we know if we've done our job, because it's all car people putting on car events 4-car people. And I think you can tell by talking to Dusty, he's really into this, and Mike, you're into this. And we don't want anybody to think that we're a sterile organization, that we're putting this on because we just thought it might be fun.
Right. Yeah. No, this is a great event. Like I said, whether you bring a car or you just show up to spectate, you look at the races, the autocross, the car show, the swap meet. Obviously, Dodge Last Call on Monday. Those tickets are for sale separately, and those are on motortrend.com. Dodge Last Call. You can check that out. There's so much going on this next weekend. If you like things with 4 wheels, show up. We promise you're going to have a great time. We promise you'll enjoy everything. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about muscle cars at the Strip. Like we said, look them up online. Look up Relentless Muscle. Look up Muscle Cars at the Strip. If you have questions, hit them up on IG. You will get answers, we assure you. And guys, that's it. Thanks so much for coming on the Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Mike.
us.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast and hit that subscribe button. And we'll come to you every week.